The biting wind whipped Rue's hair across her face, stinging her eyes with the remnants of unshed tears. Wang Li's cruel laughter still echoed in her ears, the final punctuation mark on their shattered relationship, on her shattered dreams. He'd stolen everything. Her designs, her savings, even her dignity. She stumbled down the alley, the grimy brick walls closing in, reflecting her despair back at her. The city, once a beacon of opportunity, now felt like a concrete cage. Suddenly, a rough hand clamped over her mouth, yanking her back into the shadows. A guttural voice snarled in her ear, the stench of stale alcohol clinging to the words. "You owe him, girl. Now you pay." Terror seized her, icy and paralyzing. This was it. The final indignity. She thrashed, her muffled screams lost in the wind's howl. Her attacker's grip tightened, a sharp pain shooting up her arm. This was Wang Li's doing. He wouldn't even let her have her pain in peace. Then, a blur of motion, a dark figure materialized from the darkness, moving with a swiftness that belied its size. A sharp crack echoed in the alley, followed by a grunt and the thud of a body hitting the pavement. Ayu slumped against the wall, trembling, a breath catching in her throat. The figure turned, silhouetted against the faint glow of a streetlight. Tall, imposing, he radiated an aura of power. Even in the dim light, he stepped closer, his features slowly resolving into a mask of indifference. His eyes, dark and piercing, scanned her face without a flicker of recognition, then dismissed her entirely. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice devoid of warmth, a flat monotone that grated against the raw edges of her fear. She shook her head, unable to speak, the words still caught in the vice of her terror. He studied her for a moment longer, then turned away, his disinterest palpable. "Then leave," he said, his voice as cold as the wind. "This is not a place for you." The casual dismissal, after her near-death experience, stung more than she expected. She found her voice, a shaky whisper. "You saved me." He paused, glancing back at her, his expression still blank, a dispassionate annoyance. "Nothing more." He gestured dismissively towards the crumpled figure on the ground. "Consider it pest control." Anger, hot and unexpected, flared in her chest, pushing back the fear. This man, this ice sculpture, had saved her life, yet treated her like a stray cat. She straightened, drawing on a reserve of strength she didn't know she possessed. That annoyance almost she stopped, the image of the man's hand over her mouth still vivid in her mind. She swallowed, the words catching in her throat. He tilted his head slightly, a flicker of something, impatience, crossing his face. "You're fortunate I happened to be passing by." Fortunate. The word came out sharper than she intended. "Fortunate. I was attacked." And you act like she searched for the right words, the injustice of his indifference burning in her chest. "Like it's an everyday occurrence." He sighed, a sound that conveyed the weight of 1,000 burdens. "It is," he said, his voice flat. "In this city, it is." He looked at her again, his gaze sweeping over her face, still registering nothing. "You should be more careful. Choose your company wisely." The implication that she was somehow responsible for the attack ignited a fresh wave of fury. "My company. I was alone. He attacked me because she hesitated, unwilling to reveal the tangled mess of her life to this cold, unfeeling stranger." "Because," he prompted, his voice edged with a hint of challenge. She met his gaze, her own eyes blazing. "Because of someone I used to know. Someone who wants to hurt me." He shrugged, the movement almost imperceptible. Then avoid such people. He turned to leave, his long coat swirling around him like a shroud. "Wait." The word escaped her before she could stop it. He paused, halfway into the shadows. Who are you?" He hesitated, then turned back, his expression unreadable. "My name is Jing Bon," he said. The words clipped and precise. "And you are?" The question hung in the air, a stark reminder of his apparent inability to recognize her, despite the shared intensity of the moment. She hesitated, a flicker of amusement, bitter and unexpected, rising in her chest. "Just someone you saved from an annoyance," she said, her voice laced with irony. "Someone you clearly won't remember." He gave a curt nod, acknowledging her words without comment. Then, he turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Ayu alone in the alley, the echoes of his cold indifference ringing in her ears. A stark counterpoint to the pounding of her own heart. She looked down at the crumpled forms still lying on the ground, then back towards the direction Jing Bon had disappeared. She knew, with a certainty that surprised even her, that their paths would cross again, and the next time, he would remember her. The sterile white walls of the interview room seemed to amplify the silence, a silence punctuated only by the rhythmic tap-tap-tapping of Wang Li's pen against his crisp notepad. Across the polished mahogany table, Ayu sat rigidly, her resume clutched like a shield in her clammy hands. The air conditioning hummed, a low, persistent drone mirroring the unease coiling in her stomach. She had come to Bond Industries seeking a fresh start, an escape from the wreckage Wang Li had left of her life. Ironically, he was the one interviewing her. He feigned ignorance, of course, his thin lips curled into a practiced smile that didn't quite reach his cold, calculating eyes. They hadn't seen each other since the disastrous end of their partnership, a venture he had systematically dismantled, leaving her with nothing but debt and shattered dreams. "So, Ms. Ayu," he began, his voice smooth as silk, laced with a condescending sweetness that made her skin crawl. "Your resume interesting. A string of, let's just say, less than successful ventures. What makes you think you're qualified to work for a company of Bond Industries' caliber?" Rue's jaw tightened. She knew this was coming. He was enjoying this, relishing the opportunity to publicly dissect her failures, to twist the knife he'd already plunged so deep. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "My experiences, Mr. Li, have taught me resilience, adaptability, and the importance of meticulous planning. Qualities, I believe, are valuable in any organization, especially one as dynamic as Bond Industries." Wang Li chuckled, a low, dismissive sound that echoed in the confined space. He glanced at the other interviewers flanking him, two impeccably dressed executives who wore expressions of polite disinterest. "Resilience? Is that what you call it?" "I'd call it desperation." He leaned back in his chair, the movement subtly shifting the power dynamic in the room. "Tell me, Ms. Ayu, how does one acquire such extensive experience in failing?" The heat rose in Rue's cheeks, a burning shame threatening to consume her. She felt the sting of tears pricking at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of him, not in front of anyone. "Failure," she began, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength with each word, "is often the stepping stone to success. It teaches us what doesn't work, forcing us to innovate, to adapt, to find new solutions. My failures, as you so eloquently put it, have prepared me for the challenges that come with working in a competitive environment. I learn quickly, Mr. Li, and I don't make the same mistake twice." Wang Li's smile faltered, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. He clearly hadn't expected her to fight back. He preferred his victims broken and compliant. "Indeed," he said, his tone sharpening. "And what, pray tell, did you learn from your partnership with me?" The question hung in the air, thick with unspoken accusations. Ayu knew he was baiting her, trying to provoke an emotional response. She closed her eyes for a moment, composing herself. When she opened them again, her gaze was steady, unflinching. "I learned the importance of due diligence," she said, her voice calm and even. And the value of choosing one's partners wisely. A muscle twitched in Wang Li's jaw. He opened his mouth to retort, but before he could speak, the door to the interview room swung open. A tall, imposing figure filled the doorway, his presence instantly commanding the attention of everyone in the room. It was Jing Bon, the elusive CEO of Bon Industries, a man shrouded in mystery and rumored to possess an almost mythical level of business acumen. "Is there a problem here, Mr. Li?" Jing Bon's voice was deep and resonant, carrying an undercurrent of steel. Wang Li visibly flinched, his carefully constructed facade crumbling. "No, sir. Just concluding the interview with Ms. Yu." Jing Bon's gaze shifted to Yu, his dark eyes seemingly piercing through her. Ru's heart hammered against her ribs, a strange mixture of fear and anticipation coursing through her veins. She had heard whispers of his face blindness, a condition that made it impossible for him to recognize even those he met regularly. He wouldn't know who she was, wouldn't know the history she shared with the man sitting across from her. "Ms. Yu," Jing Bon said, his voice softening slightly. "Your resume's unique." Yu held her breath, bracing herself for the inevitable rejection. She had seen that lip before, the polite dismissal cloaked in carefully chosen words. But then, something unexpected happened. Jing Bon's lips curved into a faint smile, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, transforming his austere features. "I like unique," he said, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. "Tell me, Ms. Yu, are you willing to take a risk?" The biting November wind whipped Ru's hair across her face. She hurried down the bustling Hong Kong street, clutching a folder of vital documents to her chest. The meeting with Jing Bon, though fraught with initial misunderstandings, had ignited a flicker of hope. He'd listened, truly listened, after she'd finally managed to convince him she wasn't a cater waiter. He'd even requested these specific documents, proof of Wang Li's fraudulent activities, the very evidence that could bring the man down and vindicate Yu. She glanced at the towering skyscraper that housed Jing Bon's empire, a monolith of glass and steel reflecting the city's restless energy. He'd given her a week to gather the evidence, a week to prove herself. This was her chance, her only chance, to reclaim her life and expose the man who'd ruined it. Entering the opulent lobby, Yu felt a familiar pang of unease. The sleek marble floors, the shimmering chandeliers, the hushed whispers of power and wealth. It was a world she once navigated with confidence, a world Wang Li had stolen from her. As she approached the reception desk, a voice, smooth as silk, cut through the air. "Jing Bon is expecting you, Miss Yu. Wasn't it?" Yu turned to see Lucy, Jing Bon's girlfriend, descending the grand staircase. Her elegant red dress flowed like liquid fire, her perfect smile a carefully crafted mask. Yu had only met her briefly during the chaotic catering incident, but the woman's condescending gaze and icy demeanor had been hard to forget. "Yes, that's me," Yu replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Such a quaint name," Lucy purred, eyes scanning Yu from head to toe, lingering on her simple, yet meticulously ironed, business attire. "I must say, I'm surprised Jing Bon is taking such a personal interest in this matter of yours." Ru's stomach tightened. She sensed a trap, a thinly veiled threat lurking beneath Lucy's polished facade. "Jing Bon requested these documents," Yu stated, holding up the folder. Lucy's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, a flicker of vulnerability Yu almost missed. "Of course, darling. But you understand, Jing Bon is a very busy man. He relies on me to filter distractions." "I assure you, I won't be a distraction," Yu retorted, trying to maintain her composure. She wouldn't let this woman intimidate her. "Oh, but I think you already are." Lucy chuckled softly, taking a step closer. "You see, Jing Bon has a condition." He struggles to recognize faces, especially those he hasn't encountered frequently. It's quite a peculiar ailment, isn't it? Rue's heart sank. She remembered Jingbon's initial confusion, his mistaken identity. Lucy was exploiting his face blindness, using it as a weapon against her. What are you trying to say? Ayu asked, her voice barely a whisper. I'm saying, Lucy leaned in, her voice dripping with venom, that without my assistance, Jingbon may not even remember who you are. He might mistake you for, well, anyone. Really? Ayu felt a wave of nausea wash over her. This was more than just a power play. It was a deliberate attempt to sabotage her. She'd fought so hard to get this far, to finally have someone believe her, and now this woman was trying to snatch it all away. He gave me his word, Ayu said, her voice trembling slightly. Lucy laughed, a cruel, melodic sound. Darling, in this world, words are as fleeting as the wind. It's actions that truly matter. And unless you can remind him who you are, your little crusade will be over before it even begins. With a final, dismissive glance, Lucy turned and walked away, leaving Ayu standing alone in the vast, echoing lobby, the folder of documents suddenly feeling unbearably heavy in her hands. Doubt gnawed at her. What if Lucy was right? What if Jingbon didn't remember her? Ayu closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. No, she wouldn't let fear paralyze her. She wouldn't let this woman, this embodiment of privilege and manipulation, steal her chance at justice. She thought back to her grandmother's words, whispered during childhood bedtime stories. Even the smallest seed can push through the hardest ground. Opening her eyes, Rue's gaze hardened with determination. She wouldn't rely on Jingbon's memory. She would make him remember. She would make him see. She marched towards the elevators, her heart pounding with a renewed sense of purpose. This struggle was far from over. The air in the conference room crackled with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the otherwise sterile environment. Jingbon, his usually impassive face etched with a flicker of curiosity, sat at the head of the mahogany table. Around him, the board members, usually a sea of murmuring indifference, leaned forward, their attention rapt. Ayu stood opposite them, a small figure against the backdrop of the city skyline, but her presence radiated a quiet power. This wasn't the timid, apologetic woman they had dismissed weeks ago. This was Ayu reborn. She held a folder in her hand, its contents the culmination of weeks of tireless work, fueled by a burning need to reclaim her dignity and expose the truth. The humiliation of being mistaken for a cater waiter, the sting of Lucy's condescending smirk, the cold dismissal by Jingbon himself. All of it fueled this moment. She took a deep breath. The scent of the city, a mix of exhaust fumes and blooming jasmine, filtering in through the open window. This was her city, her battlefield. She would not be defeated. As you all know, Ayu began, her voice clear and steady, cutting through the expectant silence. I was brought in to consult on the Wang Li acquisition. However, my initial assessment was interrupted. She paused, letting the weight of the unspoken accusation hang in the air. Her gaze flickered towards Lucy, who sat stiffly beside Wang Li, her carefully crafted composure beginning to crack. I've since completed my analysis, Ayu continued, placing the folder on the table. And I've uncovered some discrepancies. The word, understated yet potent, hung in the air like a thunderclap. Discrepancies, Wang Li scoffed, his voice laced with false bravado. What kind of discrepancies? He tried to maintain an air of amused indifference, but a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. Rue's eyes locked onto his. The kind that indicates systematic fraud. Mr. Li. Inflated revenue figures, falsified reports, shell corporations with each word. The blood drained from Wang Li's face. leaving him a sickly shade of grey. Lucy's hand flew to her mouth, her carefully applied lipstick doing little to hide her growing panic. "I have documented evidence," Ayu stated, her voice unwavering, "of Mr. Lee's elaborate scheme to artificially inflate the value of his company. An acquisition at the proposed price would have cost Jingbon Industries millions, if not billions, in losses." A ripple of shock went through the room. The board members, previously complacent, now buzzed with indignant whispers. Jingbon, his expression unreadable, remained silent, his intense gaze fixed on Ayu. "This is preposterous," Wang Li sputtered, rising to his feet. "These are baseless accusations. This woman is lying." Ayu finished for him, a voice laced with icy calm. "Perhaps Mr. Lee would like to explain the purpose of the offshore accounts detailed in these documents, or the suspiciously consistent discrepancies between reported profits and actual sales figures." She opened the folder, pulling out the series of meticulously prepared charts and graphs. With each piece of evidence she presented, Wang Li's defense crumbled further. He stammered, blustered, and finally resorted to outright denial. But his words rang hollow against the weight of Rue's meticulous research. Lucy, sensing the impending disaster, tried to intervene. "This is just a misunderstanding," she interjected, her voice trembling slightly. "Mr. Lee has always operated with the utmost integrity." Ayu turned to her, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. "Is that so? Lucy, perhaps you'd like to explain why you instructed the catering staff to remove me from the premises on the day of the initial meeting. Was it because you were afraid I might uncover your fiancé's fraudulent activities?" Lucy's face paled. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again, her eyes darting nervously between Ayu and the increasingly hostile faces of the board members. Truth was plain for all to see. The silence in the room was deafening. Jingbon, who had remained a silent observer throughout the proceedings, finally spoke. His voice, low and resonant, filled the room. "Thank you, Ms. Ayu," he said, his eyes locking with hers. In that moment, Ayu saw not the cold, dismissive CEO who had mistaken her for a caterer, but a man of sharp intelligence and quiet strength, a man who recognized her worth. "Your thoroughness and dedication have saved this company from a potentially catastrophic loss." He turned to Wang Li, his gaze now as cold and hard as glacial ice. "As for you, Mr. Lee, I suggest you and your associate leave. My legal team will be in touch." Wang Li and Lucy, defeated and humiliated, scrambled out of the room, leaving a trail of shattered ambition in their way. The board members, still reeling from the revelations, began to murmur amongst themselves, their voices filled with a mixture of shock and admiration for Ayu. Ayu stood there, the weight of weeks of anxiety and pressure finally lifting from her shoulders. She had done it. She had not only cleared her name, but had also exposed the truth and saved the company from ruin. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of exhilaration. She looked at Jingbon, their eyes meeting across the table. In his gaze, she saw something more than just respect. She saw recognition and perhaps something even deeper. The turnaround was complete. The next scene, she knew, would be the payoff. The opulent ballroom shimmered, a swirling kaleidoscope of silk and sequins. Crystal chandeliers cast cascading rainbows onto the polished marble floor, reflecting in the champagne flutes held by the city's elite. A string quartet played a lilting waltz, the melody weaving through the animated chatter and forced laughter. For Ayu, it was a symphony of unease. She clung to Jingbon's arm, his presence a strange mix of comfort and anxiety. Tonight was supposed to be their public debut as a couple, a testament to their unconventional, whirlwind romance. Instead, it felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm of deceit. Jingbon, still adjusting to the social whirlwind Yu had brought into his meticulously ordered life, scanned the room with an unnervingly blank expression. His face blindness, once a source of frustration for Yu, now felt like a shield, protecting him from the undercurrents of tension she could practically taste in the air. He squeezed her hand, oblivious to the tremor in hers. "Are you all right, Yu?" he murmured, his voice a low rumble against the backdrop of the music. "Just overwhelmed," she replied, forcing a smile. Her gaze darted across the room, searching for the one face that haunted her waking thoughts. Wang Li. He was here, she knew it. His invitation, a blatant act of provocation, lay crumpled in her purse, a constant reminder of the betrayal she had sworn to avenge. Wang Li materialized from the throng of guests, a predatory smile playing on his lips. He approached them with a practiced air of charm, his eyes lingering on Yu with a mixture of amusement and malice. "Jing Bon," he greeted, extending a hand. "Congratulations on securing such a captivating companion." The emphasis on the word capating dripped with insinuation. Jing Bon, unaware of the history between them, shook Wang Li's hand. "Thank you, Wang Li. Yu is indeed remarkable." Yu felt a surge of anger, a burning ember in her chest. She wanted to lash out, to expose Wang Li's lies right there and then, but she held back, reminding herself that patience was the sharpest weapon. She had orchestrated this night meticulously. She wouldn't let her emotions ruin it. "It's been a while, Yu," Wang Li purred, turning his attention to her. "You seem to have blossomed since our last encounter." His eyes flicked down to the emerald necklace glittering at her throat. A gift from Jing Bon, a gift purchased with the very funds Wang Li had swindled from her family. Yu met his gaze, her own eyes blazing. "Blossom," she echoed, her voice laced with ice. "Perhaps, though some flowers thrive in the sun, while others prefer to feed on the misfortune of others." Wang Li chuckled, dismissing her words as playful banter. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You always were a feisty one, Yu. But I admire your ambition. Jing Bon's fortune is quite a prize, isn't it?" The music swelled, reaching a crescendo. Yu took a deep breath, steeling herself. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. "A prize," she repeated, her voice rising above the music. "You speak of prizes as if you understand their value, Wang Li, but some prizes are built on lies, on stolen dreams." The room fell silent. All eyes were on them. Jing Bon, finally sensing the charged atmosphere, frowned. "What is this about, Yu?" Yu turned to him, her expression a mask of controlled fury. "This," she said, her voice ringing with conviction, "is about the truth. The truth about Wang Li, and the truth about how he built his empire on the backs of others. He stole from my family, Jing Bon. He ruined us. And he used those stolen funds to finance his grand ambitions." Wang Li's face paled. He stammered, trying to deny the accusations, but the words caught in his throat. Yu had anticipated his every move. She produced documents, meticulously gathered over months of painstaking investigation, proof of his fraudulent activities. She laid them out, one by one, on the pristine white tablecloth, the stark black ink a damning indictment against his carefully crafted facade. The whispers started, rippling through the room like a gathering storm. Jing Bon, his face unreadable, stared at the documents, his mind racing. He had trusted Wang Li, considered him a friend and a business partner. Now, he saw him for who he truly was. A charlatan, a thief. Wang Li, trapped and exposed, made a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. He tried to discredit Yu, painting her as a scorned lover seeking revenge. But his words fell flat, hollow against the weight of evidence. The guests, once captivated by his charm, now recoiled in disgust. Jing Bon, his face hardening with each passing second, turned to Wang Li. His voice, when he spoke, was cold and devoid of emotion. "Get out," he said, his words echoing through the silent ballroom. "Get out before I call security." Wang Li, defeated and humiliated, slunk away, disappearing into the night. The music started again, tentatively at first, and swelling to fill the void left by his departure. The guests, buzzing with shock and indignation, resumed their conversations, their whispers now centered on Wang Li's downfall. "Are you," her heart pounding with a mixture of triumph and relief, turned to Jing Bon. He looked at her, his eyes, usually unreadable, now filled with a depth of emotion she had never seen before. He took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for showing me the truth." He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers. "And thank you," he murmured, his voice now filled with a tenderness that melted her heart, "for showing me what it means to truly see." The kiss deepened, sealing their bond, a promise of a future built not on lies and deceit, but on trust and unwavering love. The glittering ballroom, once a symbol of her anxieties, now shimmered with the promise of a new beginning. The conference room hummed with a nervous energy. Sunlight glinted off the chrome and glass, highlighting the tension etched on the faces of Jinjian Group's executives. "Are you still dressed in the simple, almost severe outfit she'd worn since her arrival at the company?" A stark contrast to the tailored power suit surrounding her, stood beside the projector, a small tremor in her hand as she clicked the remote. "As you can see," she began, her voice clear and steady despite the inner turmoil, Hengtai Enterprises' projected growth is based on inflated figures. Her pointer danced across the screen, highlighting discrepancies in their financial reports. "Their reliance on the Malaysian rubber market is a significant vulnerability, especially considering the recent instability." Jing Bon, seated at the head of the long table, watched her intently. His usual impassive mask had slipped slightly, replaced by a flicker of admiration. He hadn't recognized her initially, his face blindness rendering her just another anonymous employee. He had even snapped at her earlier that day for bringing him the wrong coffee order, a dark roast instead of his usual latte. But Wang Li, slick and self-assured in his expensive suit, sat opposite, his face paling as Ayu meticulously dismantled his carefully constructed proposal. The room was silent, save for the rustle of papers and Rue's calm, precise explanations. She had spent countless nights poring over Hengtai's public records, fueled by burning need to not only expose Wang Li's fraudulent practices, but to prove her own worth. The humiliation she had endured, the dismissive glances, the whispers behind her back, all fueled her resolve. Their claim of exclusive access to the new processing technology, Ayu continued, her gaze locking with Wang Li's for a fleeting moment, is, frankly, fabricated. "I have confirmed with the patent holder directly." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Wang Li shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his eyes darting towards Jing Bon, searching for a lifeline that wasn't there. Ayu had gambled everything on this. She knew Jing Bon's reputation for ruthlessness in business. She knew that exposing Wang Li, a man he had previously trusted, would be a risky move. But she also knew that Jing Bon valued truth and competence above all else. Furthermore, Ayu added, a voice gaining strength, their proposed partnership offers Jinjian Group minimal benefit, while exposing us to significant financial risk. She clicked to the next slide, revealing a comparative analysis she had painstakingly compiled. "Our own internal projections show a much higher return by focusing on the Indonesian market and developing our own sustainable resources." The presentation ended. Silence hung heavy in the air. Then, Jing Bon slowly leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Ayu, The flicker of admiration she had glimpsed earlier had intensified into something akin to respect, maybe even awe. "Miss," he prompted, his voice quiet but commanding. "Are you?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, her heart pounding in her chest. "Are you?" he repeated, the name echoing in the hushed room. He stood up, his tall frame dominating the space. "You have not only identified a potentially disastrous partnership, but you have also presented a viable alternative. This," he declared, his voice resonating with authority, is precisely the kind of insightful analysis and proactive thinking that Xinjiang Group values. He turned to Wang Li, his expression hardening. "Mr. Li, I believe we have nothing further to discuss." Wang Li, his face ashen, stammered a weak protest. But Jing Bon cut him off with a dismissive wave of his hand. Security guards appeared as if from nowhere, escorting the disgraced businessman from the room. As the doors closed behind Wang Li, Jing Bon turned back to Ayu, a faint smile playing on his lips. The room erupted in applause, the executives, initially skeptical, now showering her with praise. But Ayu barely noticed. Her gaze was locked on Jing Bon, her heart soaring. He walked towards her, extending his hand. "Ayu," he said, his voice softer now, almost gentle. "I owe you an apology for my early misdirecting, and a profound thank you for saving Xinjiang Group from a costly mistake." He paused, his eyes searching hers. "Your insights are invaluable. I would like to offer you a permanent position on my executive team." Roosbrett hitched. This was more than she could have ever hoped for. It was a vindication, a triumph, a new beginning. And as she looked into Jing Bon's eyes, she saw something beyond respect and admiration. She saw a spark of something more, something that hinted at a future she hadn't dared to imagine. She placed her hand in his, a small smile finally gracing her lips. "Thank you, Mr. Bon," she replied, her voice regaining its strength. "I accept." The applause swelled again, but this time, it was a celebration not just of a successful business deal, but of a woman who had risen above adversity, proving that even in the cutthroat world of corporate giants, integrity and intelligence could prevail. And as Jing Bon's fingers tightened around hers, Ayu knew that this was just the beginning of their story. The ornate ballroom shimmered, a kaleidoscope of silks and jewels. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing light on the polished marble floor, reflecting in the champagne flutes held by the city's elite. Tonight marked the grand opening of Jing Bon's latest architectural marvel, her soaring skyscraper that pierced the city skyline. But for Ayu, amidst the opulent celebration, a knot of anxiety tightened in her chest. This wasn't just a business triumph, it was the culmination of her plan. The moment Wang Li would be exposed for the fraud he was, and the moment she'd finally learn if Jing Bon, the man who'd unknowingly stolen her heart, could ever see her truly. Wang Li, oblivious to the impending storm, stood beside Jing Bon, basking in the reflective glory. His practiced smile faltered only slightly as Ayu, radiant in a simple, but elegant gown, approached them. Two small children, clinging to her hands, mirrored her apprehensive gaze. These were her twins, Jing Bon's children, a secret she guarded fiercely until now. The air crackled with unspoken tension. The music, a swirling waltz, seemed to fade into the background as all eyes turned towards the unfolding drama. Ayu took a deep breath, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Mr. Jing Bon," her voice, though soft, carried across the hushed room. "There's something I need to clarify, something that concerns both you and your associate." Wang Li scoffed. "Ayu, don't make a scene. This isn't the time or place." Jing Bon, his expression impassive, tilted his head slightly, his face blindness, a condition he'd rarely acknowledged publicly, made reading his emotions a near impossible task. That Ayu, after months of observing him, had learned to decipher the subtle nuances of his posture, the minute shifts in his gaze. She saw the flicker of curiosity in his eyes, the almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw. He was listening. It's about the architectural designs for this very building, Ayu continued, her voice gaining strength. She produced a folder, its contents meticulously organized. These are the original blueprints, the ones Mr. Wang Li claimed were his. They're mine. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Wang Li's face, now drained of all color, contorted in rage. He lunged for the folder, but Ayu sidestepped him with practiced ease. "These," she said, holding up another set of documents, "are the financial records, tracing the fraudulent transactions back to Mr. Wang Li's accounts. He stole my designs, Mr. Jing Bon, and he profited from them unjustly." The room erupted in a cacophony of whispers. Jing Bon, still silent, took the proffered documents. He studied them intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. The silence stretched, each tick of the ground clock on the wall amplifying the tension. Ayu watched him, her heart a tumultuous mix of hope and fear. Would he believe her? Would he finally see her, not just as a troublesome presence, but as the woman who'd been wronged? Then, something shifted in Jing Bon's expression. The impassivity melted away, replaced by a dawning recognition. His gaze fell upon the two children clinging to Ru's skirt. Their eyes, wide and innocent, mirrored his own. He looked back at Ayu, her slow smile spreading across his face. "The children," he murmured, his voice barely audible above the murmurs of the crowd. "Their eyes, they're the same." Ru's breath hitched. He remembered the fleeting encounters, the stolen glances, the moments when he'd looked at her, truly looked at her, despite the fog of his condition. He remembered the night, shrouded in secrecy, when their paths had crossed in a way neither could have foreseen. "Yes," Ayu whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "They're yours, Jing Bon." "Ours." The silence in the room became absolute. Then, Jing Bon did something no one expected. He stepped forward, not towards Wang Li, whose face was now a mask of abject terror, but towards Ayu. He knelt before her, his gaze fixed on hers. "Ayu," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I remember the cafe, the park, I remember you." He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and cupped her face. The touch, gentle yet firm, sent a wave of warmth through her. The anxiety that had plagued her for months dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of relief and joy. "I'm so sorry," he continued, his voice choked with emotion, "for not recognizing you, for not seeing, for not understanding. Ayu," tears streaming down her face, placed her hand over his. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's all okay now." He rose to his feet, pulling her with him. He turned to the stunned crowd, his voice ringing with authority. "This woman," he announced, his gaze sweeping across the room, "is Ayu, the true architect of this building, and she is the mother of my children." He looked back at Ayu, his eyes filled with a love so deep, so unwavering, that it stole her breath away. "And," he added, his voice softening, "she is the woman I love." He bent down and kissed her, a kiss that sealed their fate, a kiss that promised a future filled with love, family, and the kind of happiness that only comes after overcoming the greatest of struggles. The crowd erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the grand ballroom, a testament to the power of truth, resilience, and the enduring magic of love found in the most unexpected of places. Wang Li, forgotten and disgraced, slipped away unnoticed, his reign of deceit finally at an end. For Ayu and Jing Bon, the night marked not just the opening of a building, but the beginning of their true love story. a story built on trust, forgiveness, and the unwavering belief in the power of second chances. And as they stood together, hand in hand, bathed in the warm glow of the chandeliers, they knew that their journey, though fraught with challenges, had led them exactly where they were meant to be. The penthouse apartment shimmered, a panoramic canvas of the city lights sprawling beneath them. A gentle jazz melody drifted from hidden speakers, weaving through the laughter of children. Two small figures, a boy and a girl, chased each other around a low, sleek coffee table, their shrieks of delight echoing against the high ceilings. Jing Bon, his sharp features softened by an unguarded smile, watched them with an open affection that Yu had never thought possible from the austere CEO she'd first encountered. He'd traded his usual impeccably tailored suit for comfortable cashmere, his hair slightly tousled, giving him a relaxed air that Yu found utterly captivating. She leaned against the plush velvet sofa, a warmth blooming in her chest that had nothing to do with the crackling fireplace across the room. It was a warmth born of contentment, of shared joy, of a love that had been forged in the fires of hardship and misunderstanding. Careful, little firecrackers. Jing Bon chuckled, his voice a low rumble that sent a pleasant shiver down Ru's spine. He intercepted the children before they could topple their delicate glass sculpture. The girl, a miniature version of Yu with the same sparkling eyes, giggled and wrapped her arms around his neck. The boy, a spitting image of Jing Bon with his father's determined chin, tugged at his sleeve, demanding a piggyback ride. Up you go, young man. Jing Bon obliged, hoisting the boy onto his shoulders. He stumbled slightly, a rare display of clumsiness that made Yu smile. The face blindness had initially caused so much friction between them, the reason for his cold demeanor and her subsequent humiliation, now seemed a distant memory, a quirky footnote in their love story. Remember our first meeting? Yu asked, her voice soft with reminiscence. Jing Bon paused mid-stride, the bow still perched on his shoulders, and looked at her. His eyes, once guarded and unreadable, now held a depth of emotion that made her heart ache with love. How could I forget? He replied, a hint of self-deprecating humor in his voice. Mistaking you for a cater waiter, not my finest moment. Yu laughed, the sound light and airy. And me, drenching you with champagne. We certainly made a memorable first impression. He chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. Memorable indeed. It's funny how life works. One minute you're being soaked in champagne, the next you're surrounded by the two most precious things in the world. He lowered the board to the ground and walked towards her, his gaze unwavering. He knelt before her, taking her hands in his. His touch, once hesitant and uncertain, was now firm and reassuring. Are you? He said, his voice thick with emotion. I know I wasn't always the easiest person to be with. My condition, it made me build walls. It made me push people away, even when I didn't want to. But you saw through those walls. You saw the real me, the man I was hiding beneath all the insecurity and fear. Tears welled in Ru's eyes, tears of happiness and relief. I saw a man who was kind and compassionate, despite the way he sometimes acted, she whispered. A man who was capable of great love. He brushed the stray tear from her cheek. And you are the strongest, most resilient woman I know. You never gave up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. You fought for what you believed in. You exposed Wanli's deceit, and you showed me what it truly means to love unconditionally. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a stunning diamond ring that shimmered in the firelight. The children, sensing the significance of the moment, stopped their play and watched with wide eyes. Are you? He said, his voice choked with emotion. Will you marry me? The tears streamed down Ru's face now, but they were tears of pure joy. She nodded, unable to speak. Yes, she finally managed to whisper, her voice trembling. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. The cool metal a welcome contrast to the warmth of his hand. He rose and pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. The children, squealing with delight, joined the embrace, creating a tangle of limbs and laughter. As Ayu held her family close, she looked out at the glittering cityscape, a symbol of the new life she had built, a life filled with love, happiness, and the promise of a future brighter than she could have ever imagined. The humiliation and hardship she had endured, the betrayal and the struggle, all faded into the background, replaced by the overwhelming sense of peace and belonging she felt in this moment. She had found her happy ending, not in a fairy tale castle, but in the heart of a man who had learned to see beyond the surface, and in the love of the beautiful children who called her mom. The jazz music swelled, filling the room with its warm, melodic embrace, a soundtrack to the life she had finally found. A life that was perfectly, imperfectly hers.